Today on the Witching Hour, I am thrilled to welcome a true force in the paranormal world. He is a psychic medium. He is an ordained spiritualist minister. He is an author. He is an investigator and a longtime friend, Timothy Shaw. Welcome, my dear friend. Literally, from haunted artifacts to energy healing to Lilydale to the world's largest planchette, of which we've been inside together. We could talk about that if we so
Yes,
desire,
we
because
have. Yes, we
I
have.
can never say that about anybody else except you. So, how are you doing, Tim?
I am thrilled to be here. I'm just relaxing. It's so funny because it's like too many times I am like forever like on the go. I am finally starting to slow down. Retirement is actually kicking in. Now, if
Ooh.
I ever retired from the paranormal and the metaphysical, I don't know what I would do in my life. So that's kicking up. That's start you know what it's like. I mean, we're at that time of year when it
Yeah,
is starting to roll. And
starting to
we
get
have
busy.
oh my God, yeah. And there's so many places to go, so many things to see, so many people to talk to and meet. I'm
Yeah,
ready. I'm
I am
ready. I'm
ready
ready.
too. I'm ready too. So, do you have any good? I mean, we'll talk about all the things I could see you coming up. Any good plans for the summer? Any good travel investigations or anything like that?
Well, I have a idea for a book, and it's going to be called Ghosts Along the Erie Canal from Albany to Buffalo, New York. It is really super rich. This whole area, they used to call it the burned over district because of these zealots that would come and travel down the Erie Canal, and they would have tent revivals, and they would get in the barns and go into, speak in bars and taverns, and they were out looking to grab the souls of all these farmers and all these small town folks that line the canal. But also, we were a hotbed of religion. So we had the Millerites that ended up becoming the Seventh Day Adventists. We have all of of course, the Church of Latter Day Saints by
Right.
created by the prophet Joseph Smith. We have spiritualism, which is my home religion. And down in Hydesville, New York, you had the cap there, you had the cottage there. So along with all of that, there are all sorts of hauntings and all sorts of legends and lore. So that's one thing I'm doing this year. And the second project that I've already started is I'm just going to call it tentatively Cemetery Tales, because as a lot of people know, I have become involved with a local Buffalo, New York cemetery called Concordia Cemetery. I have some relatives that are actually buried there, and it was abandoned. Basically, there's over 7,000 or 17,000. I will call them residents in the cemetery, and it was abandoned. And a group of volunteers have taken upon themselves to refurb it, to keep it going. I was able to go and speak there this year for one of their little events where I talked about Victorian mourning rituals, and so I'm going to be working there, and they actually have an obelisk there that has a curse, a hex, that is written in German, carved into the side of it. So that's one of the only things I've ever seen around that had something like that. So I'm traveling around looking at let's say unusual graves. And one of my favorite places is to go to the Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester, New York, not that far away from Buffalo. And I get to visit with Dr. Francis Tumblety, who was a snake oil salesman. He used to be like he'd be like one like literally minutes ahead of the police when they came to arrest him. But his whole claim to fame was that he was actually a suspect in the Jack the Ripper murders. So he's there. So I get a chance to go and visit all these people. So I probably got about 15, 16 different unique graves that I've been visiting. And the one set of graves that I do want to go and visit is a place called the Children of the Alleghenies, which is a little considerable ride from here, about 6 hours. But children disappeared from their home. And a gentleman said that in a dream, he saw where the children were, and he took them there, and it proved they were dead. And we do feel that it was this gentleman who had this prophecy went and murdered them. So, there's a great memorial there. It's in the middle of the woods. So I really wanna go see that. That was a huge case back in the 18. So that's just a couple of the little things that I'm doing, the little projects to just keep me busy.
Hanging out with the dead. I love that. And I think the cemetery you're involved with, and I think that's beautiful. Because we have a local, my favorite cemetery that I know anywhere. It's called Hollywood Forever here, right in
Mhm.
the heart of Hollywood. It's got from old
Yes.
movie stores to regular people. It's got a Jewish section, Armenian section, of this section, of that section. But it had been abandoned too and just gone to,
Right.
and then several years ago, some people bought it and took it. It just the spirits are really grateful for it. They've turned it into a place of life. We do movies on the lawn,
Yes.
have concerts in the Masonic Hall that's on the property. But to almost just like a rescue dog is gonna appreciate you more than some purebreds. I have a purebred. I don't you notice that the spirits are appreciative?
Yes, they are. And, it's unique because, they actually invited me to be on the board of directors of the, foundation, which I'm not I'm thinking I'm gonna mull it over. I have to the 21st in order to go and think about it. But also, they go and they reclaim many of the stones that have been knocked over and covered over. They've been
Mm.
reclaiming them. They're repositioning them, and there are so many stories there in this little cemetery. It is amazing. Murder victims, all the children that are buried there. We A Medal of Honor winner from the Indian Wars is buried in there. There's so many. There's Civil War veterans. So many stories that I could probably write a book just on Concordia Cemetery itself. So I don't know. It just keeps me busy. Patty. You know how it is. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. So I don't.
Exactly.
I'm like you. You just have to keep going. You got to keep looking. And paranormally, I have to tell you that the little cottage that's on the property, it used to be the caretaker's cottage. It has some interesting vibes in there, very interesting vibes. So I was invited to actually go and do a daytime investigation because evenings in there, it's a very questionable area, but we can go in there and do it. But I can tell you that psychically and mediumship wise, there's a lot of stories that need to be told through contact, some kind of contact. So I can't wait. This is the fun stuff. This is the stuff, listen, anybody can go and take a meter and run through a building or whatever. But when you go into some place with a goal, and your goal is to give a voice to those who have no longer have that voice, that is when things get interesting, and that's when things I believe that's what people like us were put on the earth to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just have a K2 meter going, "Ooh, it's up to red."
Yeah, well, let
We
Patty,
love that too, but yeah,
Patty, there's nothing as well as I do. There's nothing better than when there's no electricity in a building whatsoever, and all the little pretty lights all shoot up,
no,
and you're like, "Ooh, this is
and it is a
interesting."
confirmation.
But
But
yeah,
I it's interesting you're saying that the area you were talking about for your book, oh, can't wait for it, that there is psychically charged areas. To me, that what there always seems to be extra psychic or whatever paranormal activity and more religion of all different faiths. Because
exactly.
I'm in the middle of Hollywood, also in a very active area by the hills. I think it's these energy vortexes. Just right within a mile of me is like 9. There's Theosophy, Self-Realization Fellowship, Vedanta, the Scientologist, the Crotona, a Catholic
Right.
nunnery, a monastery, and they all go hand in hand. It's that energy.
Well, I think it is, and the other thing that I found is I'm not too far away from the Niagara Falls. I'm about 45 minutes from Niagara Falls. Niagara River that rushes through there. It is in it. I found that people who are very creative and artsy, painters and writers, they
Mhm.
gravitate towards it. The other thing that I just finished an article on a location here in Lockport, New York, which was all part of the Great Erie Barge Canal. And I started looking into the geology of like some of the buildings, where the stone came from and everything. And we find that it is Medina, It's called Medina sandstone. Medina sandstone is made up of high concentrations of quartz. And as we all know, quartz is probably one of the greatest conductors of not only electricity, but also paranormal and psychic energy. These buildings are amazing because they are just, you walk into them and you can feel the vibration of it. And the place that I just wrote about, the Western Block in Lockport, New York, I've been there several times. I've conducted classes there. I've done events there. It is literally a stone's throw away from the Erie Canal. So there's so much history and there's so much stuff, but the psychic vibe in there is so strong. And that's what I look for. Especially, I mean, you and I have both done the psychic walkthroughs for
Yeah,
network
yeah.
TV, our different shows that we've been on. And that's the thing that really attracts me to what we do. It is when that first impression, when you just go, oh, and you feel the energy just flow through you and it's like swirls around you. And then all of a sudden you just take that breath and then all the images start to come in, they start to flow in. And I get, well, I don't know about you, but I get pablum of the mouth where it just starts
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
flowing out. I love that. And to me, that's the importance of it. And again, we're giving some kind of a voice to the other side. And that's, since I was a little kid down in, when I used to go down to Lilydale and we used to do Lyceum, the Sunday school, it was pounded into our brains. We are to be of service to both sides, the living and the dead, both sides of the veil. And by what we do, by going down there and giving that vibrate, that voice. And again, doing what we do, yeah, we can do the readings and all that stuff. But to me, this is what's so important. This is what our jobs really should be all about. And being able to go and just add a little bit more to the knowledge of whatever else is going on
I
in that
agree
area.
wholeheartedly. So I know, I mean, if you're to say that you grew up in the spiritualist community too, and going to Lilydale and learning, table
In
tipping
and
in
out, yeah,
school and
in
things
and
like that. Um, so when did you realize that you had the special gift, or was that just taught into you, or that this mediumship ability, this would be a big part of your life and who you are?
I had a dream back. Now I was first introduced get into Lilydale around 1972. That's when we first went down there to visit relatives and stuff. I would say probably a year before that, 71, 70. I was a little kid. I was still in grammar school. And I had a dream of laying on a beach and a best way I can say it is a glowing man going between all of us that were laying on this beach. And every so often people would it was all bed at the time. They would get up and they would walk into the water. And I remember this big dark cliff behind me. And I remember him coming up to me saying, just relax. It's painless. It's painless. Don't worry about it. And I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to remember how old I was. I was just like a little kid. And I know I was definitely in grammar school. And I remember going into the water and I had some kind of a life jacket on. And I remember saying to him, hook me to this, whoever was next to me. He's my friend. And right at that point, I was in what seemed to be some kind of an enclosure, and I was laying on top of some kind of machinery, and I looked over and I saw some guy standing or laying like this. And always remember he had a white hat on. He was like this over some kind of a pole or something, and they had these arms out. And I remember feeling the water coming up and then slowly engulfing me. And it was so vivid. I mean, I can remember it to this day. And the unique thing, the crazy thing is I kind of woke up and put it in the back of my brain. As a kid, years later, when the movie Das Boat came out, I saw right where I was laying on this, I don't know, some kind of machinery, something in the control room or whatever they call the bridge. And I remember seeing what I thought was just a pole was actually the periscope. And there was a officer with the white hat and his arms were like, I remember his arms like this, and it was as if there was a lack of oxygen or something. So I do believe that may have been a flash of reincarnation. Because again, at that time, I wouldn't have known anything about World War
No.
II outside of the fact that it happened. But to actually understand and see in my brain, uh, that clarity, that type of clarity was amazing. And I always remember at the very end, it was like bang, I was out of there, I was back in the water, and then things just went black. It just
So
faded
good.
to black. So that was a yeah, so that was, I'd say, probably my first outside of, like, as a little kid talking to the to the person
Right.
in the mirror,
But
but I
that
mean, that's I think we
yeah, we
all
all
do
do
that.
that, and I talk to spirits, but nothing that dramatic, so that could have been a lot of things. Was that an angel? Was that an alien coming down and putting you on a thing and taking you back to a past life? That could ooh, that could be
That was amazing, and I always tried to replicate it. I always tried to figure out, try to get it back, try to get that dream back or try to redream it or whatever. I never could do it. I spent over 50 hours, not all at the same time, in a Sidara
oh,
isolation tank back
oh,
in the 80s. And I I had a lot of different experiences doing that, but I never could get to that clarity. And the interesting part was I always tell clients that if they have someone in visitation in a dream, it is as if they were actually there. That's how you can tell the difference between a dream or in visitation. And this was as real as I have ever experienced in my entire life. And to this day, I'm not listen, I'm not I I'll swim, but I am not like one of those guys that really want to hang out
mm.
in the water. I'll go up to the beach and I'll just hang out, but I mean, I'm not going to go out there and swim any length of any
They might come
distance,
get you.
But hey, you never know. But this was one of those things that uh sparked my
Yes.
interest in it. And being able to have relatives down in the Dale and being able to go to Lyceum,
Which is for anybody who
we
doesn't
spent a
know,
lot
what
of
is
weekends there.
Lyceum?
Lyceum is the spiritualist Sunday school. And the reason why they sent us there was because we used to get in too much trouble. We used to go and, during the season, they call the season in Lilydale. It's all, really they have a lot of stuff going on, activities, and a lot of tourists coming down there. And as kids, I mean, we're riding our bikes into groups of tourists and watching them spread and run. You know, we were doing, stuff like that. So that's one of the main reasons why we were enrolled. But that was unique. That was wonderful because of the fact that during the school year, I went to St. Andrew's Roman Catholic school. I went to a parochial school. And the minute that ended, then I would go and we'd spend a lot of weekends down in Lilydale. And I was able to go to a lot of the Lyceum there. And the Lyceum was amazing because they taught you so much where the parochial school taught you, oh, there's healing and saints can communicate and do all this stuff. But it was never to the point of hands-on the way that they taught me. And I always call them the old blue hairs, the old they were the old biddies down there. But those were the instructors. And the stories that they would tell you sometimes you would sit there and be like enthralled. I remember we couldn't use Ouija boards because I was a member of the National Spiritual Association of Churches.
And why?
You don't use
Oh,
tools. You don't use tools. And the reason why you don't use tools is the fact that I always classify it as there's two ages of spiritualism: the age of spiritualism, the golden age, and then the golden age of spiritualist fraud. So they didn't really want you to go and use anything that they could go and say, oh, well, he's
okay.
cheating, or, a lot of it, especially, because it got a pretty big black eye because of so much of the fraud that went on there. And rightly so. But, we would still use a shot glass on a polished table for yes or no answers. And during seance, you could use the spirit trumpet, which is a long spherical tin. It looks like one of those listening horns. You could use that. You could use slates with chalk in there so that, let's say, a spirit would communicate through that, write something, write an answer, write a word, things of that nature. You could use bells, you could use tambourines, that sort of stuff, but only during a
Wow.
seance. And as a kid, we did children's seances, which were basically full blown seances, except with the lights on. We were done, and they had several houses down there that were seance houses. They had seance
Mm.
rooms in there. where the windows were blacked out, and they had some of them. I remember one had black like cloth on the walls, and they had what they would consider a spirit cabinet where like and what they would you would use that you would sit in there and the medium would meditate and it would harness the energy. You could produce transfiguration, which was the an ectoplasmic mask over the face, discarnate voices, that sort of thing. And actually, what it was a closet, but it had one of those farm doors on it. It was half like a half door, and I always remember that. And it was some of the stuff was kind of crazy. And you'd get the table tipping. I always remember I just about pooped myself because a heavy, heavy dining room table, probably 300 pounds worth of wood bopped. It just bopped. I always remember that. And there's just no way that you could lean on it properly. Like a card table, you can lean on a little bit, you can get it to jump. But this thing just came up, and I always remember just like sitting there going, "Oh my God, what just
Yeah.
happened?" So, and then we got a chance to learn about like the pioneers and all the different types of phenomena and all so I mean, it was a great education at that time.
That's amazing. And yes, I know we talked about it before or in your show that you taught me table tipping because it was advertised I was gonna tip tables. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And you taught me like that. And it's amazing, the energy, the ectoplasm. So I have a question. I don't know much
Sure.
about ectoplasm and all that kind of stuff. It would I if people send me pictures of me at a seance, there'll be, like, 12 people or whatever. Clear face, clear face, clear face. My face is completely whited out, blurred out. That's
Transfiguration. Yeah,
okay.
that's like yeah, it's almost transfiguration because the
I have
the
a
the, the
million of
true
those.
the true practice of transfiguration is to go and harness this energy. And usually it's a little ritual. It's kind of neat. You have the medium in the middle and you have two batteries, two mediums on each side of you. And you can use like an enclosure but if a lot of mediums don't. But what it is that everyone goes and concentrates their energy into these two mediums, the batteries, and they in turn are there for the medium who's going to practice transfiguration to draw upon that energy. And when they draw upon that energy, their whole purpose is to go and bring forth a ectoplasmic mask, and the mask will be of someone that somebody in the crowd or the sitting will know. And I mean, I've been there where the Reverend Richard Schuler from New Jersey, he's amazing. Where he's got a hairline like me, and all of a sudden there's a pompadour or a beehive, and the nose will change and the facial features will change, or it just washes over them. I've been in healing circles where the healer is bringing forth through them in trance, and I've seen their faces just go blank, just sort of like this mask. It looks like, the old Halloween masks that you could kind of see through. They're a little translucent. It was when that happens, that means that you are actually producing enough energy because ectoplasmic phenomena is a combination of your energy. Of course, I mean, the old days are a little bit different, but I believe now that the definition is it's a combination of your energy and spirit energy, and it's colliding here in the physical and producing it. The other thing is I always look for pinkish, like a pinkish color, because I've been in situations where we were actually doing something that we shouldn't be doing in a spiritualist church. We were supposed to be all studying for ordination. We were all supposed to be, get together as a study group. But oh no, let's have some fun. Let's do this. So we'd go up to the worship area and we would do a really heavy, poignant, focused, guided meditation. And we ended up, I remember all of a sudden just feeling something like cobwebs, or cotton candy just go over my face, over my body. And I remember calling people over, and I opened up my eyes and it was pinkish around me, a little pinkish. And I had like six people put their hands towards it, and they actually felt it. They felt that feeling that was around me. And uh, it was an amazing thing. But it doesn't, it's hard to reproduce it. I think I've only had that happen to me like 3 times in all the years I've done this. And but I always look now. I always look at people's photos and I look for certain things, and the
Yeah.
pinkish that pinkish, like, veil that goes over the medium's face, to me, looks to be probably, in my not being a scientist and not tearing apart everything because, your cameras and all that, but it does seem to be evidence of some kind of evidence of ectoplasmic,
Yeah.
phenomena. Many years ago, the former president of the National Spiritual Association of Churches actually married a former Jesuit theologian. He taught up at Georgetown. And let me tell you, it was amazing because he said to me, we talked afterwards, and I asked him about what about all these saints and all this, and he goes, if you want to know what true mediumship is, study the life of the saints.
Oh,
And he's 100% true. He's 100% correct because we have a Monsignor here, Monsignor Nelson Baker, the vicar to the poor. He is definitely he was medium. He was a medium. He was definitely a holy man. He was able to go and find he needed gas during a certain period. Buffalo got hit by the Spanish flu, and there are so many orphans that he created all these. He created an orphanage and a trade school, and then later on he had a home for unwed mothers, and it was amazing. But he needed to power it, and he believed in Our Lady of Victory. So he did a him and all the altar boys went out in this field and they went up and down until what I feel was he felt a tug on his rosary and they stopped. And he told the gas, at that time everything was natural gas. Drill here. And he took a small icon of Our Lady of Victory, buried it next to it, said, "Don't disturb it, but dig here." And they went down to where they usually find natural gas, and he says, "Father Baker, there's nothing there." He goes, "Keep digging, because Our Lady of Victory will never, never let me down. The gas well is still pumping gas to this day."
wow.
So it's an amazing thing. He's credited for bilocation. He's credited for healings while alive. He's credited after death for healings. His relics are credited for healings. Also, when they exhumed his body, when the Vatican said, "Okay, let's go and let's really start researching him," they exhumed his body. They and because they thought he was such a holy man, they took his bodily fluids, his blood and whatever, and preserved them in the coffin. So when they opened the coffin, they examined the blood and they found that I believe it's the white cells were acting as if they were still in the body. He's in a sarcophagus now inside of the church, this big basilica. And so it only proves to me one thing, that there is truth in all religions. It's just that man has gone and tweaked
Yeah.
them a little bit. But if you start looking at it across the board, it really looks like it's all the same. And at that point, I realized that there's absolutely no separation. And that's why, and the big thing was the divinity of Jesus Christ. That was a huge thing. But like the spiritualists believe that Buddha and Muhammad and Christ, they were all ascended teachers. They were all unbelievably holy men. So to me, I never had a problem. I never had a problem stepping from being a Roman Catholic, going into my father's religion, which was spiritualism. So that's how, I mean, it was so easy for me. And to this day, I get a lot of people that go, I'm a reformed Catholic. I'm this, I'm that. I look at them, I said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You better do your research before, and then come back and talk to me.
Yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. I was raised opposite with my grandfather was a famous atheist, humanist, studied
Mhm.
religion, philosopher from Turkey, and he taught religion, but he kind of debunked everything. But I look at his writing now, and he's just using academic and science words to still the same story. I think they are all the same.
Yes.
Everybody's got somebody hanging from a tree. Everybody's got the one son. It's like it's just a different template. Like if we want to put a
Yeah.
different template on our thing,
Agreed.
yes, we've tweaked it, and most of that was man trying to control people. Humans trying to control people.
Exactly.
But the
Exactly.
truth, that universal truth, I just pick the one that works best for you. Or the come I pick from all of them,
Exactly.
just like you. It's like a little bit of here, a little bit of here, a little bit of that. I like stew.
Well, it's so funny because when it comes to the craft, I mean, I know some.
You're very
I'm
yeah.
blessed knowing
Oh,
you, first of all. But when it comes to the craft, I have, I've had people, local pagans, and if I go to a festival or something, they ask, "Well, what's your tradition?" And I look at them, I say, "Well," I said, "I'm pretty eclectic." I said, "I'm across the board on a lot of things." And they go, "Well, that's a cop out." I said, "What do you mean a cop out?" He goes, they'll go, "Well, you should be X, Y, and Z." I looked at him, I said, "Well, in that case, I'm definitely a chaos magician." Because it means the exact same thing, whatever works,
yeah.
works.
Oh, I've heard that recently too, because I draw from everything, right? Outside religions, as well as I like some ceremonial magic. I like some chaos magic.
Mhm.
So, and I used to use eclectic a lot more, and then people get down on that now. Like, what are we getting judgmental? Oh, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
humans.
Well, it's so funny. I knew Ray Buckland, and, what a guy he was. He was just an amazing person.
My
I mean,
first book,
talk
everybody's
about being
first book, The
blessed.
Big Blue Book of Magic.
Yeah.
Got it on my shelf.
Yep. He was just an amazing individual. But if you start looking at the way he did things, he followed Gardner and he did this and that, but then he started to develop his own, style, which actually became, the basis for a lot of the
Mhm.
Wiccan traditions. But then towards the end of his life, he changed it to a northern tradition, and he evolved it. Everything was evolving, and he took from all of the sacred texts and all of that, he just brought it and he just streamlined it a little bit more, and then he just kind of changed it a little bit. And I thought to myself, geez, if Buck could do something like that and feel comfortable doing that, well, I mean, I can do, and in my own personal belief system. And he'd be the first one to tell you, you follow who you want to follow. You follow what works for you. And the other thing is I always remember Lilydale used to be so strict. Used to be so strict for the teaching and philosophies and all. Buckland was welcome in that community. Welcome. Buckland classes. I mean, one of the best classes I ever took from Buckland was the solitary seance tools for the mediumship tools for the worker. And he taught in that class, he taught everything from boards, the pendulum to tarot. I mean, he taught it all. And it's a great if anybody ever wants to read a good comprehensive book on divination, that's the book to get, Solitary Seance. And I always remember that. And they welcomed him with open arms and they accepted him. And I thought, okay, times are changing. Times are changing. And at that point I said, okay, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable in my own skin now.
That's good. Yeah, because that's the one thing about spiritual pagan. It's like it's not because we tell you so. You find your own truth here, and that's to me spirituality, whatever title you want to put on top of it. So,
It's
oh,
true. I mean, let's face it. I mean, one of my best friends in the paranormal world is Johnny Zaffis, nephew
love.
of the Warrens. I mean, you know Johnny. To me, I hate to say this, but he's like a mentor to me. I know he would kill me by saying that because he'd go, I'm only 3 months older than you. How can I be your mentor? And but I mean, I learned a lot from him, but I don't agree with everything.
Right.
But why can't I take what he taught me, which is more, Ed Lorraine Warren style, which was more demonology, more Christian based. Why can't I take that and apply it to what I'm doing on several different levels and see if it works and see how it works? And again, he's funny because he's like this hidden font of knowledge. If you ever want to ask him about an esoteric question, he's got an answer for you. I have yet to ever stump him on a question. So he's another one. He's a lot like Buckland, except he's just a little bit more. Well, I'm carrying on Ed's legacy here,
Yeah, he is an amazing one. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. So, yeah, you've got a lot of books to write, my friend. That's all I can say. Yeah, because again, this is what the world needs. Think, feel, open. I don't know. In this crazy times we're living in, we need some kind of a create your own little guidebook, however that is. So if you find ones that you want to follow, that one I want to, and if not, draw from all of them. Make stupid. I
Exactly.
call it.
That's exactly it. But that's exactly it. But then on the flip side, I'm not looking for followers either. I'm not looking for
Right.
anybody. I'm not, you know, I, if somebody likes what I pontificate upon, that's fine. If they don't like it, that's fine too. I'm not looking for people to do that. I'm just looking for people to find their own truth. I want them to go and get out there and experiment and learn. And again, don't throw anything out. Keep everything. It may not make sense now, but I know personally how things that I learned that I thought were nonsense years and years ago, even when I was a lot younger, have all come back now. And I understand it's like, oh, okay, the square peg goes in the square hole now. It works like it, it's amazing. And it's the other thing is adventure. What we do, people don't associate spirituality with adventure. And that's something that I am a firm believer in that. I am such a firm believer in that. We do I know there's a thing called, paranormal travel, that sort of thing. New York State has the Haunted History Trail, which is a lot of fun. I love that. It's a great, our friend Brian Kano is part of that whole project. And they got all these different haunted locations you can visit. But just go out there and do a little bit just do a search. Just do a search on Google and find things and go out there and experience them. And when we start talking about locations, I like to look for places that are spiritually significant. Now, last year I did a fundraiser for the Palmyra, New York Historical Society Phelps General Store, which is an amazing place, a haunted. Just amazing. However, Palmyra is the hometown of the prophet Joseph Smith. All my life, I've wanted to go and I wanted to walk in the sacred grove. So yours truly gets up in the morning real early, gets out there probably about 7:30 in the morning, and I walk in the forest, this beautifully wooded forest land, and I'm walking along this path, and the energy that came up was so striking and beautiful and pure, and it just washed over me for this entire trail, probably a good 20 minutes of walking just this trail. And I realized at that time, it was not only like the energy coming out of the ground, but it was the energy of all these thousands or hundreds of thousands of pilgrims that have gone there because his home is there. It was on his property, the sacred grove where he actually saw Christ. He went and he communed with Christ and God. So he was able to do that. And all these people, it was the beautiful belief of all these followers and all these believers that have permeated this area, and it was just washed over me. And I'll never forget there was a bench. So I'm walking, do 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 do. I'm definitely not looking like a Mormon on a Sunday walking through there. Believe me, I got a sweatshirt, I got a hoodie on and shorts and my hiking shoes, and I'm walking and I see this bench, and I sat down on the bench, and it was just like overwhelming. And finally, a family was walking by, and they looked at me, and I said, "I'm having a blessed day, guys. This is amazing." And they were like, "Yes, you get it." And then they continued on, and then finally, when they were out of sight, I finally got up. I finally could get myself off off the bench, and I could move again. But it was just so overwhelming. So, if you're looking for something spiritual, look into like different religions and look into different things. It's like again, Monsignor Baker, Our Lady of Victory. He has a library. There's a museum with his artifacts in it, which are just, whether you're a believer or not, to see this historically is amazing. The feeling in there is amazing. His sarcophagus is in there. It's just so beautiful, and you get overwhelmed by it. And you just let yourself just feel it, and you just sit in a pew, and just allow it to flow over you, because the beauty of these places is just not the history, but the what if and the what is, and it just flows. And that to me is great. It's just an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, me too. And we want to feel. We don't want to be the zombies. Go to work, come home, do this, do that. So yeah. Oh my God. You now that you're retired from your day job, I might have to come get you to teach at my school, even once in a while. And just it's a little Zoom class, no big deal. But I have 20 teachers now, but all over. I have a guy in Italy teaching Italian Strega magic, a guy in Brazil teaching Brazilian magic. But the one thing I won't let people say at University Magic is that they can't say this is the truth. They could say this is a truth or this is my truth.
Exactly. Exactly.
And from there, it's like, so you can't even call us a cult. It's like, damn.
Well, I mean, I teach dowsing, right? I teach dowsing. And the one thing that I always tell people is there's no one way. There's no one way. There's 1,000 different ways of doing it. I can tell you so many different ways. I can show you different tools, but you don't need tools. This is how we approach it. This is how I approach it. How you approach it is your own decision. How you want to work with it. How do you do it? Experience it. You have to be an experiencer, and too many people aren't experiencing. And that's a problem, I think, with a lot of the paranormal out there, because they're not experiencing. Too many people are their heads are down.
Yes, relied on.
I remember we were doing we were doing an event on the USS Edson in Bay City, Michigan, and I was standing there, and everybody's like taking a little break, and everybody's down like this, and they're all looking at their meters and stuff. I looked up, and there was a figure. It was like a shadow person, the head and the shoulders, and it went straight down, and it looked like it was over pixelated. And I saw it. It looked like it was on roller skates because it went like this. It turned slowly and then went down this gangway. I jumped. I mean, I'm talking, I must have jumped about 6 feet, ran. I don't know how I got through a hatch, because I mean, they got knee knockers about that high. I missed that. I landed on my bad leg, and I knocked over. I went into one wall. I bounced off another wall. I saw it, and it went down, right? It went down, at this turn, and I went after it. Later on, they told me that one of the, after it became a museum ship, it was in New York City, and I believe that the guy by the name of Paul, I can't think of his last name, loved the ship, lived on the ship, passed away right where I saw the
Right
guy,
there.
right there. And later on, Steve Shippey, who's a great director and producer, you probably see a lot of his work on Shock Docs on I think Netflix. We were there filming, and I was doing like a little seance, and everything lit up. I'm talking everything was crazy. And I just thought, it's got to be a flop, or a flip. It's got to be something in the area. And we finished it. And I said, Steve, I'm so sorry that nothing happened, really happened, except for everything going in. And that's suspect. Two of the volunteers were sitting behind me, and they were like this. And I was like, what's wrong? They felt an electric static charge go right through one into the other. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Steve goes, we got to film this. We got to film this interview really quick. And it was funny because it's like, yeah, people look down. People are too fixated upon the mechanics. And they're also fixated on looking for evidence, capturing the evidence. And that's fine. That's fine. Because I mean, I'm using a Geiger counter now, static meters, and all this other barometer, all this stuff to try to find if there's some kind of correlation. But the problem is they no longer are looking for that personal experience. And to me, I would much rather I just saw something. I'm sorry. I just started laughing because I got a shadow person that comes out in my workshop here. My I think he just kind of went like that and looked back. I
Yeah.
just caught a shadow. But to me, it's 'cause I'm talking about personal experiences. To me, personal experiences trump anything out there. And whether or not we can explain it doesn't matter.
No.
It's that personal experience that becomes intrinsic within us, and that is what we should be looking for more than anything else. Yeah, the science is great and everything, but the intrinsic experience is what we look for. And that to me, when we go to different locations, when we're finding places to go, sometimes it's the personal experience that will always stick with you so much.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And to me, I like the technology to prove that feeling that I'm having. Like I'm seeing a spirit doing jumping jacks on the table or something, and now there's a guy in an SLS in another room who can't see or hear me with a little green shirt doing jumping jacks. I like the feeling. I like the technology to just confirm the feeling that I'm already having versus the other way around. But you're right. I worked with my first spirit horn recently, actually on a Ghost Adventures. We conjured Houdini. We were at the Winchester Mystery House with Harry Houdini's one remaining blood relative that's known. And he had Harry Houdini's spirit horn. When we set it up, it was, and talk about electricity. That's why you brought it up. Aaron on a Polaroid camera, old school Polaroid, captured all the electricity coming out of fingers, coming in right into this one person. It would look like lightning strikes. It was amazing.
I love it. And, I mean, I remember the old seance, the old what they called trumpet mediums, when I was much younger. Probably I was a teenager at the time when I first saw it. And it's amazing to see a trumpet. You lay it, we used to just lay it flat. We never laid it, you never had it sticking up, although you can, but we used to lay it flat. And to see it levitate and start to move a little bit, and then to start hearing through the small end, because it's like a funnel, you hear the muffled voices starting to come out. And one of my mentors, one of the people that she taught me table tipping. She used to have this piece of quartz and she made into a necklace. And what happened was she heard a whirring inside her trumpet go shoot, shoot, shoot. And she heard a drop. And at the end of the seance, she looked into the trumpet and there was this piece of quartz in there. And an A port like that is amazing. Now, only once in my entire life have I ever heard the wishing, that like a scraping inside the horn going shoot. So I got all excited going, yeah, it's happening. And at the end of the seance, there was nothing in there. But but it was the experience,
Next,
just to
next
have
time.
that, to be able to go and know that it almost replicated what she experienced. So that to
Wow.
me was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find me a trumpet somewhere. Anyway, I'm looking at time and oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to have you back because I want to talk about any haunted objects, all sorts of things. So you just have to come back and visit me, will you?
I'm surrounded by haunted objects.
I know you are. I'm looking at them here. My dolls are watching. Everybody's watching. So tell if everybody is now as intrigued and in love with you as I am, as anybody who knows you is, where can people find you, follow you, anything you have coming up this summer or later?
If anybody's looking for me, I'm on Facebook. I call that the devil, but I'm addicted to Facebook, so I use that a lot. You can go to timothytshaw.com, which is my website. I try to go and I try to keep it up, but being a one-man band, sometimes I fall, unfortunately, way behind. Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, for the most part. I do eat, that's Eastern. I have the Black Cat Lounge, which is my vodcast that the lovely Patti Negri was just on.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody loves Patty. You can go on there and, also you can watch past episodes on my website. But in July, I'm gonna be at the Foresight Tavern in Cambria, New York. I'm gonna teaching dowsing. Then in August, I'm actually gonna be there again, and I'm gonna be teaching Paranormal 101. This fall, I'm gonna be at the Sage Conference in, Middletown in, Virginia. And I'm gonna be at Palmyra again, which I love to do. I think they're the most beautiful people in the world, and I love going. We're gonna celebrate, I believe, Sybil Phelps, who is the last of the Phelps to live in this house. Uh, I believe it's her 130th birthday, so we're gonna go and we're going to celebrate that. And, I think in September, I'm gonna be in Gettysburg. I think I got a gig in Gettysburg. I have to look. And then, of course, when we go into October, I don't know where I'll be. I'm gonna probably be up in the Western Block in Lockport, New York, working up there a little bit, and, gypsying here and there, and just trying to be as effervescent as the lovely Patty Neck.
Oh, come on. I'm working my way up to you, my anyway. uh, Follow him, check him out. I follow you on Facebook, but I can't get on Facebook, but I post on Facebook. That's my cross to bear. But thank you, my dearest, amazing friend. You guys, this is one of the sweetest, most educated, most magical, intuitive
She's talking
humans
about
on this.
herself, believe me. She's talking about herself.
You. It's okay. It's the Mutual Admiration Society, my friend. I'm the president.
That's it. We're good. We're
Oh,
even. We're
all right.
equal.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your magic to the witchy.
Thank you, Patty. It's been an honor to be on. And I'm just going to tell you something. I was a fan for years before I met you. And to know you is to even love you even more and respect you even more. So thank you so much for having me on tonight.
I'm gonna blush. Thank you. You guys love them.